Chapter 5102. This tree wants all of us to die here. Even if I have to die, I will chop this tree down. Everyone's eyes were filled with hatred. If it weren't for this tree, they wouldn't have ended up in such a state. Obviously, this tree was waiting for them to die so that it could absorb their blood essence. Therefore, when it saw that their situation was getting better, it started thinking of ways to provoke the madness of these beasts. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with anger as well. This huge tree was too evil. It wanted to kill all of them here. Even if they didn't know what had happened in the past, it was easy to guess that a lot of cultivators had died at the hands of this huge tree. Previously, it had used its pure and holy appearance to attract everyone's worship. After gaining everyone's trust, it started attacking them. This feeling was as if it had been treating them like toys, toying with them in the palm of its hand all along. Previously, we actually worshipped this tree so much. Now that I think about it, I feel that we were extremely stupid. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but curse. She really wanted to destroy this tree. However, the current situation made her realize that it was already extremely difficult to defend against the attacks of these beasts, let alone this tree. We can't go on like this. Even with the Qilin lion, we won't be able to hold on for long. In their line of sight, although the Qilin lion's combat power was still extremely shocking, everyone could clearly feel that the Qilin lion's elemental energy was depleting at an extremely fast speed. Not only that, the chanting was clearly reducing the Qilin lion's combat power. The moment the Qilin lion's elemental energy was exhausted, they would be in an extremely miserable state. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. At this moment, she really couldn't think of any solution. Die here. She would never accept that. An indescribable feeling of despair enveloped everyone's heart. At this moment there was really no hope left. Many cultivators shifted their gaze to Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang. However, they also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had already done their best. At this moment, what else could they do to change the situation? Chen Feng and the rest sank into silence. As the strongest cultivator here, his combat power was indeed not weak. Even so, it was impossible for them to break through this group of demonic beasts. At this moment, everyone suddenly felt an oppressive force erupting from Bewitching's body. Sensing this power, everyone immediately understood that this was the power of darkness. This power was deep and oppressive, causing everyone's hearts to become heavy for no reason. Then, they watched as Bewitching continued to use the power of darkness, but they did not understand what he was trying to do. In fact, although everyone had always known about the existence of dark energy, they had very little contact with it. Not for any other reason, but because everyone rejected the power of darkness. Normally, practitioners of the power of darkness would not reveal their attributes, and it was even more impossible for them to see the other party use it. Every time a dark energy cultivator appeared, they would be suppressed or even hunted down by others. Not only that, but because the inheritance of the power of darkness had been lost for many years, the combat power of darkness cultivators was not strong. Chapter 5103. Now that they saw Bewitching display his dark force, they didn't have much expectations. After all, the dark force inheritance had disappeared for so many years, so it was impossible for Bewitching to have a deep understanding of it. Even though everyone knew that dark attribute cultivators were extremely powerful existences in the past, that was only in the historical records. In reality, it was impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Bewitching's actions. The moment he made his move, she had already guessed Bewitching's plan. Bewitching flipped his hands, and a round ball of dark force appeared between his hands. It constantly rotated, revealing a profound and mysterious aura. With the appearance of this black ball, everyone felt the aura become more and more condensed, and for some reason, it became heavy. I wonder what Bewitching is doing? Nangong Yuqing raised his eyebrows. He had never seen such a method before. Who cares what he's doing? Jun Lingshuan rolled his eyes. Let's not talk about the fact that the dark force is useless. Even if his dark force isn't weak, the martial skill he's using now won't be of much use. Can it kill all these demonic beasts? As soon as these words came out, everyone's heart sank. Indeed, No matter what kind of martial skill Bewitching displayed at this moment, unless it could kill all of the monsters in front of them, it wouldn't have much of an effect. On the contrary, Bewitching would lose even more Yuanli. When the black ball in Bewitching's hand rotated to the extreme, he suddenly bit the tip of his tongue, and a drop of blood essence shot out and merged with the black ball. As the drop of blood essence fused into the black ball, a trace of red color suddenly appeared. This drop of blood essence was like the finishing touch, dyeing the originally dark ball with a blood-red light. The blood-red light was like lightning, constantly shuttling back and forth within the ball. Then, everyone felt an incomparably powerful aura emerge from the black ball. The wind whistled, and the world seemed to darken. The black sphere contained an incomparably shocking and bizarre power, attracting everyone's attention. Inexplicably, everyone only felt that this energy ball was extremely terrifying. The aura produced by it gave them an indescribable feeling of palpitations. Bewitching stood in the middle of the crowd. His white robe seemed to have been dyed black. The wind blew past his face, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was mysterious and beautiful. At this moment, he was like the god of darkness. He possessed the most mysterious and powerful power in the world, shocking everyone. Then, with the movement of Bewitching's hands and the chanting of Sanskrit, a wisp of energy shot out from the black ball and entered the ground. Wisps of black smoke rose from the ground, and everyone looked at this scene in shock. If Bailey Hongzhuang's taboo technique had already shocked them, then Bewitching's actions had shocked them from the bottom of their hearts. This was a mysterious power that they had never encountered before, and it made them submit to it from the bottom of their hearts. In the next moment, everyone felt the ground squirm, and a dense dark energy emerged from the ground. What is Bewitching doing? Nangong Yuqing's eyes widened, and his voice trembled. It was too terrifying. Everything Bewitching did was too terrifying. Chapter 5104. It wasn't just Nangong Yuqing. Everyone present had the same thought in their minds. This Bewitching was simply an invincible existence. Xiao Soa stared blankly at Bewitching in the middle of the crowd. That fierce and intimidating aura made people not even have the courage to look up at him. He was like a god of war. Just one look was enough to destroy everything. Di Xiaofeng and the others also looked at this scene in disbelief. They never knew that Bewitching had such a trump card. Xiaofeng, you've hidden it too deeply, haven't you? Morongjing's face stiffened. Just based on Bewitching's means, your D family can become a first-class family in the future. Although it wasn't easy for such a huge family to be strengthened or weakened, in the end, it was still a matter of strength. With the strength that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang had shown, even if they weren't a match for some old monsters now, as long as they were given enough time, once they developed, they would be completely abnormal existences in the future. Who dared to touch a single hair of the D family? Wasn't that tantamount to courting death? I'm not hiding this from you. This is the first time I've heard of it. Di Xiaofeng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Even if he was usually indifferent, when faced with such a situation, it was difficult for him to control his expression. Really? Morongjing was dumbfounded. Even you don't know? Why would I lie to you about this kind of thing? Do you think I'm faking it? Di Xiaofeng's voice contained a trace of roar, but it was more of a surprise. The stronger Bewitching was, the better the D family's future would be. This was naturally what he was most happy to see. His own little brother was actually such a powerful existence. If his father and mother saw this scene, they would be even more surprised. As the wisp of black gas spread out from the ground, under the shocked gazes of countless people, skeletons climbed up from the ground one by one. Skeletons, so many skeletons. Heavens, why are there so many skeletons here? I've heard that dark attribute cultivators can summon skeletons. Could it be that Bewitching is summoning an army of skeletons to deal with these demon beasts? Soon, everyone had already connected the dots to Bewitching's motive for doing this. It was obviously not enough to rely on their own abilities to deal with these demonic beasts. In a group battle, the number of people was the most important. If Bewitching could summon an army of skeletons, then this situation could really be alleviated. Bewitching's face gradually turned pale. Even though his strength had increased, it was still extremely difficult for him to summon such a large number of skeletons. Even if he used his essence blood, it would be extremely difficult for him to continue. When Xiaobai saw this, she immediately transferred the dark energy in her body into the dark sphere in Bewitching's hands. There must be enough dark energy in order to summon more skeletons. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly approached Bewitching, and the dark energy in her body also quietly flowed into the sphere. Xiao He did the same, but it and Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very secretive. Dual attributes, such a talent, they did not want to expose it to others for the time being. Fortunately, Bewitching only sent out dark energy. At this time, no one would notice Bailey Hongzhuang's situation at all. Chapter 5105. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the two demonic beasts' dark energy poured in, the energy in the light ball became more and more intense. As a result, more and more skeletons appeared from the ground, and their numbers increased. It wasn't until the power of the light ball had completely dissipated that Bewitching stopped. With just a command, all the skeleton army surrounded Bewitching and the others, and began to deal with the demonic beasts outside. This was a battle between the skeleton army and the demonic beasts. The most important thing was that these skeletons were not weak at all. Not only were they not defeated by the demonic beasts, they even had some advantages. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but have a trace of joy on their faces. In the past, when they saw the skeleton army, they only had fear in their hearts. Only now when they saw the skeleton army, their hearts were filled with joy. At this moment in their eyes, these skeletons not only did not have the usual evil and gloomy horror, but on the contrary, these skeletons were angels that brought them hope. Beichen, how did you do it? Di Xiaofeng looked at Bewitching in surprise. With the appearance of the skeleton army, they no longer had to hide in the defensive array like before. On the contrary, because of the attack of the skeleton army, their place became more spacious. It's all thanks to Hongzhuang's reminder. Bewitching breathed a sigh of relief. Although his handsome face was slightly pale because of overexertion, he was more relaxed. I reminded you? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She didn't think about this at all. Bewitching nodded slightly. You said before that this tree is so evil. I'm afraid that many talented cultivators have fallen here in the past. I thought that if so many cultivators had fallen here, then there must be a lot of bones buried here. So I tried to use the dark energy to summon the skeleton army. Listening to Bewitching's explanation, everyone understood. Beichen, you're really amazing. Shangguan Yingying gave a thumbs up. If it weren't for you, we would all have died here today. Yeah, I didn't expect the power of darkness to be so strong. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with admiration. Cousin, you have completely changed my view of dark attribute cultivators. This is amazing. Jun Lingxuan and the others stared blankly at Bewitching, feeling their throats dry up. Such a person was actually their opponent. How can you use the power of darkness to such a level? Chu Yingming looked at Bewitching in disbelief. The inheritance of the power of darkness had already disappeared for so many years. Logically speaking, no one should have grasped it. Over the years, the power of darkness had declined and was almost gone. When he found out that Bewitching was a darkness attribute cultivator, he felt that Bewitching was no threat to him at all. However, the current situation made him realize that the other party was an extremely terrifying existence. Bewitching faintly glanced at Chu Yingming, but did not pay attention to him. Are you stupid? Why would I tell you this kind of thing? Xiren rolled his eyes and looked at Chu Yingming as if he was looking at a fool. This technique was naturally a secret. Ugh. Chapter 5106. This is the power and terror of the power of darkness. Xiao Soa's face was pale. In the past, she had only heard of the huge impact caused by the dark attribute cultivators hundreds of years ago. However, because it didn't happen in front of her eyes, she didn't think too much about it. Only at this moment, after seeing it for herself, did she understand how terrifying it was. Such an ability was simply beyond her understanding. To be able to summon so many skeleton armies to fight for him. How could ordinary cultivators be his opponent? No wonder the power of darkness is not tolerated. Such an ability is really unacceptable. Hearing Xiao Sou's words, Lin Qianqian stood out immediately, her fair and pretty face full of dissatisfaction. Xiao Sou, what nonsense are you talking about? This tree has always been emitting the power of light. Isn't it also evil? What's so great about the light attribute? Why should the light attribute be sought after while Bewitching should be despised by everyone, because he's a dark attribute cultivator? That's right. Shangguan Yingying stood out as well. Don't forget, if it wasn't for the skeleton army summoned by Bewitching, you would have become a corpse by now. Xiao Sou looked at Lin Qianqian and Shangguan Yingying blankly. Such words were indeed hard for her to refute. At this moment, everyone's gazes gradually changed. Indeed, before this, everyone believed that this tree was a divine tree. However, later on, they understood that everything before this tree was just a facade. In fact, it was so dark. Who can guarantee that the light attribute cultivators are all good people? Di Xiaofeng raised his voice. Using a pole to kill an entire boat of people, isn't this too biased? That's true. Weren't the ruins we went to previously also filled with the power of light? In the end, didn't we almost lose our lives there? Although this power of darkness seems somewhat sinister, its effect is to save all of us. Everyone was discussing animatedly. Their original opinions were also subtly influenced by this and began to change. In my opinion, this power itself is not divided into good and bad. It only depends on the nature of the cultivator, who controls the power. Chen Feng's voice resounded. His eyes were shining with wisdom. He had never had any prejudice against the dark attribute. Power was just power. It didn't have any attributes. How it could be used depended on the cultivator. It was only because of the way in which the power was displayed that they were repelled, which was very one-sided. You're right. Didn't Di Beichen help us? Morong Jing nodded. Xiao Sou's expression changed when she saw that everyone was speaking up for Di Beichen. As a cultivator of the Holy Light Assembly, this view was deeply ingrained in her heart. In her opinion, this should be the understanding of every cultivator. However, the current situation made her understand that not everyone thought the same way. Even if she wanted to refute, in the face of so many mouths, it was obviously useless. Beichen, let's take advantage of the fact that the skeleton army is able to resist the demonic beasts to chop down this tree. Di Xiaofeng's eyes flickered with a resolute light. It was all because of this damnable tree that he almost lost his life here. Chapter 5107. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, everyone's eyes lit up. That's right, this tree is so evil. If we don't chop it down now, who knows how many cultivators will lose their lives here in the future? Not everyone was as lucky as them to be able to meet Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, if it weren't for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen in this team, they wouldn't have been able to survive even if they had a few lives. One of them had forbidden techniques and was good at medicine, while the other had mastered the power of darkness and was good at formations. Apart from the two of them, it was really difficult to find such an outstanding person. In the next moment, everyone immediately rushed towards the giant tree. They only had the opportunity to do so when the skeleton army was blocking the monsters. Otherwise, no one knew what the tree would do in the next moment. Because of this tree, they had already suffered a few losses. After seeing everyone's eyes filled with murderous intent, the giant tree began to panic. Its thick and flexible vines continuously attacked, blocking everyone from approaching. However, everyone who hated this tree to the extreme did not care about such obstacles at all. They helped each other and quickly approached. Ding ding ding. The sound of metal continuously rang out as the vines were cut down by everyone's weapons. As the number of vines decreased, everyone realized that the giant tree's chanting had also become softer. This tree is really intelligent. It can't be that it thinks that as long as it stops chanting, we can pretend that nothing happened before, right? When Xiren's eyes were filled with surprise, such a smart tree was really unheard of. Unfortunately, it's all too late now. Mo Yunjue's eyes were cold. What was the point of keeping such an evil thing if not destroying it? In the next moment, Mo Yunjue directly slashed at the giant tree with his sword. A faint wail rang out. Then, Mo Yunjue realized that the wound he stabbed was actually bleeding. Seeing this scene, Mo Yunjue's eyes narrowed. This was also the first time he had seen such a situation. This tree is really strange. It makes my hair stand on end. Shang Guanyin couldn't help but rub her arms. This situation was too scary. She even felt that this tree was not a tree at all, but a person. Don't worry so much, just cut it off. Lin Taxing looked determined. The weirder the giant tree behaved, the more he felt that he should not keep it. The giant tree let out a blood-curdling scream, but no one held back. Blood kept flowing out of the giant tree's wound, but it reminded everyone of the blood the giant tree had absorbed over the years. Trees were supposed to have no blood, but it was bleeding so much. These were probably the cultivators who had died at its hands. Thinking of this, everyone felt even more hateful. Just a little bit more and all of them would have become sacrifices for this tree. Creak. Boom. Under the rapid cutting of the trees, the giant tree was finally pushed down. After pushing it, everyone discovered that the tree suddenly turned into specks of light and disappeared into the air. Everyone looked at each other, not understanding what was going on. Chapter 5108. A group of beastkins looked at the scene in front of them in confusion. They didn't seem to understand why they were here, nor did they know what happened before. Soon, the beastkins retreated one after another. Without the summon of the giant tree, they had no reason to continue to stay here. Seeing the group of monstrous beasts retreat, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Their tense bodies suddenly relaxed. Oh my God, it's finally sunny after the rain. Sure enough, cutting down this tree is the only way to break through. Chun Feng looked at Di Beichen with a smile on his handsome face. Di Beichen raised the corners of his lips slightly and nodded with a faint smile. I have never encountered such a terrible situation since I was born. Now I can finally rest. The cultivators didn't care that there were many corpses of beastkins on the ground. They sat on the ground one after another, looking at the blue sky and white clouds. The corners of their lips couldn't help but rise. Just a little bit more, and they would never see tomorrow's sun again. After the crisis was resolved, Di Beichen also lifted the summon. Suddenly, a group of skeletons returned to the ground again. If it weren't for the corpses of beastkins all over the ground and the smell of blood spreading in the air, it was as if nothing had happened. I have been looking forward to coming to this immortal cloud secret realm to gain experience before. Now I feel that this place is really terrible. If I had a choice, I wouldn't come here even if I was beaten to death. Lin Yi shrugged. Even if everything was over now, she still felt a lingering fear. Thinking about it, I'm afraid many people can't forget what happened these days. Haha, unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in this world. Lin Qianqian put one hand on Lin Yi's shoulder. Speaking of which, we have also gained a lot of knowledge this time, right? That's true. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. Then she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, second cousin-in-law. I really admire you guys more and more now. With you guys protecting me in the future, I don't have to worry about someone bullying me. No one dares to bully you on normal days. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Almost everyone sat down and rested. They had only been in the immortal cloud mystic realm for a few months, but they felt as though they had been here for a few lifetimes. At this moment, everyone suddenly noticed that at the place where the giant tree disappeared, there was a bright light shining. Dense light energy spread out like the sun, dazzling and eye-catching. Faint bright light energy poured down on everyone, giving off a holy and inviolable aura. In a short period of time, everyone discovered that the injuries on their bodies had been healed. It's light energy again. I'm really afraid of the power of light now. Who knows what dangers will appear in the future? Nothing good happens every time I encounter the power of light. The successive incidents had made everyone fearful. Even though the light energy in front of them had healed their injuries, no one was overly grateful. After all, they had experienced the same thing when the tree was still around. Once bitten by a snake, twice shy. This was exactly the situation they were in now. Look, there's a palace in front of us. As the voice rang out, everyone was surprised to find that a huge palace had appeared before them. Chapter 5109. This must be the original owner's ruins. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black, phoenix-like eyes glowed with joy. The corners of her lips curled into a small, lotus-like smile. Her already delicate features became even more dazzling. Previously, she had been searching for the original owner's ruins. When she had been surrounded by the school of fishes, she had sensed that the ruins were here based on the stone's reaction. However, when she had seen the giant tree, she had looked around, but could not find any trace of the ruins. She had felt suspicious about this. She never thought that the ruins would only appear after the giant tree had disappeared. Bewitching glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and nodded with a smile. That should be the case. Did the stone sense anything? Yes. Her clear eyes were filled with joy. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle but filled with excitement. Actually, the place that the stone sensed was here. It's just that I haven't been able to find it. Xiao He and Xiao Bai could not hide the joy on their faces when they saw this. All this while they had lost some of their memories. Now they only hope that they can find their memories in the ruins. Only then would they be able to find their true selves. Even the white dragon could not help but feel overjoyed when he heard this news. Have you really found it? That's right, we've found it. That's great. A gigantic palace stood impressively in their line of sight. A rich light energy spread from the center of the palace. However, this was not the most eye-catching thing. Instead, they were shocked to find that the ruins were intertwined in black and white. Not only was there light energy, but there was also an aura of darkness energy. The black and white palace was unique in its own way. It had an unfamiliar yet unique beauty. The majestic and mighty aura was even more shocking. Seeing this monument, Bailey Hongzhuang was no stranger to it. The palace in her chaos ring had the same style as the ruins before her eyes. Hence, she was even more certain that her chaos ring was an inheritance from the original owner. She never thought that they would be so fated to meet. Then, the group could not be bothered to rest as they immediately approached the palace. They could feel the light energy from the palace. This feeling was exactly the same as the one they had felt from the giant tree. Bailey Hongzhuang felt the power of light, and a thought suddenly appeared in her mind. Beichen, do you think it's possible that the source of light energy was this palace and not that tree? Hearing this, Beichen's eyes showed a hint of contemplation, but he nodded as if he suddenly understood. It's very possible. Perhaps it was because the ruins were here, and because there was a concealment array set up, only a little light was released, and that was why the aura was leaked. Because of the nourishment from the power of light, the tree was able to grow into such a huge monster. I didn't feel the slightest bit of light energy when I was chopping down the tree, so it's just a fox borrowing the tiger's might. Xiren suddenly understood. If that's the case, then everything makes sense. Shengguan Yingying sighed. Say, do you think this ruin will be the same as the one we saw before? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with caution and dread. After coming into contact with such things one after another, it was really difficult to remain calm. Chapter 5110. I think there is no such thing as a free lunch in this immortal cloud secret realm. It's better to be careful. Looking at the black and white palace in front of them, everyone looked at it carefully with a little expectation and a little fear. Although they were lucky enough to escape from the previous crisis, no one knew if their good luck could continue. If it happened again, they might not be able to keep their lives anymore. Xiao Shou felt the rich light power, and she was very sure that this was the purest light power. Although she didn't know what the light relic mentioned before was, she was sure that the master of the relic was absolutely incomparable to the master of the relic in front of her. However, she didn't understand one thing at all. Why does this light power relic have a dark aura? Light and darkness, these were two completely opposite attributes. Listening to Xiao Shou's words, Lin Qianqian also had a hint of ridicule in her eyes. She immediately said, Xiao Shou, didn't you say that light power and dark power are incompatible? Then why do these two attributes exist in this relic? Yeah, you said before that my second cousin-in-law and second cousin would delay her future. But look at this relic. It's completely different from what you said. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Shou. Her slightly raised eyebrows were full of ridicule and disdain. She disliked this girl the most. It's fine that she couldn't enter the eyes of her second cousin, but she still tried to find a way out for herself by belittling her second cousin. It was really hateful. Light and darkness are incompatible, Xiao Suo emphasized. Then can you explain it? Xiao Suo opened her mouth, but she didn't say anything in the end. This situation was really beyond her understanding, so she didn't know how to explain it. You can't explain it, right? Shangguan Yingying rolled her eyes. In my opinion, you are just ignorant. Hey, how can you say that? Xiao Sudong couldn't help but retort. My elder sister is the next holy maiden of light. How can you say that she is ignorant? So what if I say she is ignorant? Shangguan Yingying crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking fearless. Didn't she say that the power of darkness is not accepted? This building is the best proof. Maybe this ruin is the same as the previous one, and it's meant to harm people. Jun Lingxuan suddenly said, shielding Xiao Suo behind him. Shangguan Yingying frowned when she heard that. She hadn't expected that either. What if it isn't? When Xiren saw that someone dared to diss his wife, so he was naturally the first to stand up. How do we know now? Jun Lingxuan looked a little embarrassed. Obviously, there was no point in continuing to argue. The most important thing was that once they had a disagreement, they were not the opponents of Di Bei-chun and the others. As they approached the ruins, they realized that the entrance to the ruins was locked. This ruin is locked. Since it's not locked, it means that we can't enter at all. It's useless for us to just watch. Why don't we try to break in by force? Everyone looked at each other, and finally decided to try it together. Even with the previous trauma, it still couldn't offset the temptation of the ruins. Chapter 51:11. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly looked at the black stone in her hand. From the moment she got close to this place, the stone gave off a strong response. The key was in her hand. Should she open this ruin now? Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously looked at Di Bei-chun. She believed that without the key, it would be useless even if everyone tried to break through. As long as they waited for the other cultivators to give up and leave, they would be able to enter on their own. Di Bei-chun gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look, indicating for her not to make a move for now, and to wait for a while. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. Since they were already here, there was indeed no need to rush. Boom! Boom boom! One powerful attack after another landed on the door, but the door didn't budge at all. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but sigh. Sure enough, this situation was not beyond their expectations. Looks like it's useless. Jun Lingxuan sighed. Do we have to continue waiting here? Continuing to wait might not be useful. Xiao Sudong was a little helpless. Not every ruin is the same. Everyone looked at each other. Many cultivators began to try to find the mechanism. Perhaps the owner of the ruin hid the key nearby. After all, they did not believe that anyone would have the key. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chun already understood the situation. So naturally, they did not need to look around like everyone else. All they needed to do was wait. Wait for everyone to give up and leave. However, judging from everyone's eagerness, it was obvious that they would not leave in a short time. Fortunately, the rich energy around the palace was also very beneficial to them. Cultivating here would yield twice the result with half the effort. Even if they had to cultivate here for a while, there was nothing bad about it. Di Xiaofeng and the others saw that Di Bei-chun and Bailey Hongzhuang did not care and sighed in their hearts. These two people were too calm. In the face of such temptation, they were not moved at all. If it were them, they would not be able to do this. Just as everyone was trying their best to find a way in, two bridges suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight. Two bridges, one black and one white, appeared in front of the ruins. Then, everyone found that their bodies were brought to the back by a strange force. What's going on? Everyone was stunned. The sudden change made them puzzled. Do we have to cross these two bridges to get in? Lin Taxing could not help guessing. The gate of the relic is at the end of the bridge. But we can reach the gate if we just walk through it, Ao Lingxiao said doubtfully. At this moment, there were already cultivators who tried to walk across the bridge without crossing it. However, when they got close, they realized that there was an invisible barrier blocking them from getting any closer. We can't cross. The cultivator looked depressed. Looks like we can only cross these 2 bridges. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. They immediately stood up and approached the bridge. Of course, when they got closer, more cultivators had already scrambled onto the bridge. However, when many cultivators stood in front of the bridge, they found that they could not cross it at all. Why can't we get on the bridge? Chapter 51:12. For a moment, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Even if they couldn't find the key before, at least they knew what they had to do. But now, this sudden change left them scratching their heads. Xiao Soa looked at the wide white bridge in front of her, her eyes flashing with anticipation and excitement. From the moment she felt the light energy emitted from the ruins, she made up her mind. No matter what, she was going to enter the ruins. She was certain that the inheritance in the ruins was very important to light attribute cultivators. This was an incomparably pure light inheritance. As long as she could obtain it, she would definitely become the true saint of light. It was an indescribable longing, enough to make her forget everything. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, Xiao Soa walked onto the white bridge with ease. Xiao Soa actually walked onto it. Why can she walk onto it, but we can't? Could it be that this white bridge only allows light attribute cultivators to pass? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This was the most likely explanation they could think of. After seeing Xiao Soa walk onto the bridge of light, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately sped up and approached the bridge. Standing in front of the bridge, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other before the 2 of them walked onto the bridge together. However, Di Beichen stepped onto the bridge of the darkness attribute. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Wuk walk onto the bridge, everyone immediately understood that their previous guess was correct. Only light and darkness attribute cultivators can pass through. Doesn't this mean that this ruin has nothing to do with us? Nangong Yiqing frowned. If he had thought that this ruin might be another trap, he had completely dispelled that idea. This kind of selection must be for the true inheritance of the ruins. As Bailey Hongzhuang also stepped onto the bridge of light, in front of everyone's eyes, 3 other cultivators also stepped onto the bridge. These 3 cultivators were also of the light attribute, but their previous performance was not as outstanding as that of Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the proportion of light attribute cultivators was small, there were still a lot of cultivators who had entered this time. On the other hand, apart from Di Beichen, there was no one else on the Bridge of Darkness. It was not because there were no dark attribute cultivators among the various forces. Instead, it was because cultivators of this attribute had always been despised. It was simply impossible for them to obtain a slot to enter the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. Xiaohei, do you have any impression of this bridge? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Xiaohei was the original owner's contracted beast, so she might know something. However, Xiaohei only shook her head and said, I don't know. All right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly and continued forward. Soon, she discovered that her footsteps were obstructed. Taking a closer look, she discovered that a stone tablet had appeared in her line of sight on the other side of the Bridge of Light. That's the Sacred Light Tablet. Xiao Soa looked at the stone tablet that had suddenly appeared with an incredulous look in her eyes. Chapter 51:13. Not only Xiao Soa, but the other 3 cultivators could not contain their ecstasy as well. Such a treasure has actually appeared. This is really a great opportunity for us. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng and the others' eyes were filled with shock when they saw the Sacred Light Tablet and Sacred Darkness Tablet appear at the same time. Sacred attribute tablets of this level are treasures that can only be encountered by chance. I've only heard that such treasures exist in the world, but I never thought that I would see one with my own eyes. Lin Taxing exclaimed. It's said that this Sacred Attribute Tablet can help cultivators comprehend attribute power. Moreover, because the Sacred Attribute Tablet is a miraculous object in the world, the power on it is the purest. As long as one has the chance to comprehend it, one's understanding of attribute power will be much stronger than before. Beichen and the others are really lucky this time. As long as they have the chance to comprehend it in front of the Sacred Attribute Tablet, Even if they can't enter the ruins, it's still worth it. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of smiles. Although he did not have such good luck, it was already very good that his younger brother and sister-in-law could have such luck. With Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's talent, they would definitely become stronger after comprehending it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the sacred attribute tablet that had suddenly appeared in front of her. Although she did not know what it was, she could tell that it must be an incredible treasure just by looking at the excited expressions of Xiao Sou and the others. As her gaze landed on the holy steel of light, she could feel the power of the origin of light emanating from the steel. A feeling of enlightenment appeared in her mind. It was as if the law of light that she had always been unable to understand had suddenly been touched. It gradually became clear from its initial blurry state. I never thought that the sacred light tablet would have such a powerful effect. A look of pleasant surprise appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face. She immediately quickened her pace, wanting to get closer to the sacred light tablet as soon as possible. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but Xiao Sou and the others also had the same idea. Of course, it would be best if they could take the sacred light tablet away. That would be a huge gain. However, just as they were about to get closer, they realized that it was extremely difficult to take a step forward. After walking for a certain distance, they found it difficult to advance any further. Among them, Xiao Sou walked at the front, Bailey Hongzhuang was second, and the other 3 cultivators were even further behind. Master, I'm afraid that this bridge can't be crossed directly. Instead, it tests the cultivator's understanding of the power of light. Xiao Hei's voice rang out. If you don't understand it well enough, you won't be able to cross this bridge. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Xiao Hei's method coincided with her thoughts. Thinking about it, this should be a test from the master of the ruins. When the cultivators outside saw this scene, their eyes lit up with understanding. Although they did not walk on the bridge, they could roughly guess what was going on from the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This bridge that had suddenly appeared was naturally not something that could be casually crossed. Otherwise, what was the point of its appearance? It looks like Xiao Sou's understanding of the power of light is still better than hers. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Sou are still some distance apart. That's where the difference lies. Chapter 51:14. My eldest sister is the next saint of light. Her understanding of the power of the light attribute is naturally incomparable to that of an ordinary person. Xiao Sudong's face was filled with pride as he looked at Shangguan Yingying and the others. Previously, he had been suppressed by these girls until he could not speak. Now he finally had a chance to refute. Some people think that they're great just because they have the light attribute. But what's the use if their understanding is not deep enough? The group of Xiao clan cultivators instantly felt elated, and all the depression they felt from being suppressed earlier dissipated at this moment. In terms of bickering, they were indeed no match for the Di family. However, their strength was now so obvious that no one could deny it. Shangguan Yingying and the others were dissatisfied when they heard this. However, the gap between them was indeed there, and they could not deny it. Xiao Sudong, don't be too proud. Hongzhuang has just arrived in the upper realm not long ago. The time she has been in contact with the power of light is much shorter than Xiao Sou. As long as our Hongzhuang has some time, it will not be a problem for her to surpass Xiao Sou. Shangguan Yingying lifted her chin slightly. Her fair face was filled with confidence. She knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's talent and comprehension ability. She did not believe that she would lose to Xiao Sou. It's useless for you to say this. Anyway, we can't compete now. Xiao Sudong shrugged. He was still proud of himself. The other cultivators did not choose to leave after seeing this scene. They also wanted to know who the final winner would be. It was rare to have such a lively scene. What was a little more time? Moreover, the elemental energy in the surroundings was so dense. It was a good thing to cultivate here. Xiao Sou's eyes flashed with pride when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang behind her. She was really worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would be stronger than her. Fortunately, the situation was not as serious as she thought. Bailey Hongzhuang did not miss Xiao Sou's expression. However, this was not important to her. After realizing that she could not move forward, she sat down on the bridge and stared at the light sacred tablet in front of her. She began to comprehend it. Such a rare opportunity naturally had to be grasped. Bailey Hongzhuang was surrounded by pure light energy. Looking at the holy tablet of light, Bailey Hongzhuang could feel the existence of the rules. Her understanding of the power of light was not deep enough, but now, it was as if a brand new door had been opened for her. She hungrily comprehended and absorbed the knowledge. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's situation was different. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Di Beichen walked up to the darkness sacred monument and began to comprehend it. If it was in the past, he would naturally not have been able to do this. However, after obtaining the inheritance of the force of darkness, his comprehension of the force of darkness was much stronger than before. This was because he had received the inheritance of the Dark Saint. After everyone saw Di Beichen's performance, they immediately understood. No wonder Di Beichen could summon an army of skeletons to help him in battle. It turned out that his understanding of the power of darkness was so deep. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Xiao Souo had tried to advance 2 steps. However, Bailey Hongzhuang remained in the same place and showed no signs of advancing. Seeing the gap between the two gradually widening, a trace of anxiety appeared on everyone's faces. Chapter 51:15. Although they didn't know if the ruins only allowed those who passed through first or if all light and darkness cultivators could enter. They still didn't know if the ruins only allowed those who passed through first or if all light and dark cultivators could enter. But no matter what, it was always best to be the first to enter. As long as they entered first, they would be able to obtain more treasures. Therefore, Di Xiaofeng and the others hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could surpass Xiao Souo. Hongzhuang has only been in contact with light energy for a short time. Even if her talent is amazing, she still needs some time to comprehend it. Lin Taxing's face was full of emotion. In fact, none of them could have done better than Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Souo had long been designated as the Holy Maiden of Light. Even if she hadn't broken through to the astral boundary, she had already been in contact with light energy. After years of subtle learning and progress, her understanding far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was compared to Xiao Souo, she was at a disadvantage. Sigh, this is the most disadvantageous part. Lin Qianqian sighed gloomily. If Hongzhuang had stayed in the upper realm for a while longer, it wouldn't have been a problem for her to surpass Xiao Souo. Shangguan Yingying looked at the worried expressions on everyone's faces and couldn't help but say, "Don't be too anxious. She hasn't lost yet, has she? Hongzhuang knows her limits. Maybe she can catch up later." She had been with Hongzhuang for so long and had some understanding of Hongzhuang's ability. All along, Hongzhuang's performance had been very surprising. Even if Hongzhuang was at a disadvantage now, she was still full of expectations as long as it wasn't the end. That's right. Mo Yunjue nodded, his deep eyes filled with trust and determination. Hongzhuang had always been the best. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at Shangguan Yingying and Lin Qianqian in surprise. If it was only one person who said it, they could only encourage them. But it was a little strange that both of them were so determined. Could it be they really believed in Hongzhuang so much? However, what happened next made them feel helpless. This was because even the 3 cultivators behind Bailey Hongzhuang had reached her position, and some of them had even surpassed her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was still sitting in the same spot and comprehending. She had no intention of moving at all. Xiao Souo saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been caught up by the others, and a trace of joy appeared in her eyes. It seemed that it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to surpass her in this aspect. As long as she could obtain the inheritance of this ruin, Bailey Hongzhuang would never be able to shake her position in the future. Thinking of this, she was no longer anxious. She even felt that it would be good to let Bailey Hongzhuang live a little longer. At the very least, she had to let Bailey Hongzhuang see her glory. 7 days have passed, and Hongzhuang still hasn't made any move. It's really worrying. Lin Yi's small face was anxious. Although she also knew that cultivating here was very helpful to herself, She couldn't help but want to see how Hong Zhuang was doing after cultivating for a while. However, except for Hong Zhuang, everyone had made progress, but Hong Zhuang still didn't move at all. Linny, I think you shouldn't be anxious. Bailey Hong Zhuang obviously can't do it. Xiao Sudong's face was full of pride. It's useless for you to be anxious here. It's better to learn from Bailey Hong Zhuang. She has already accepted the reality. Chapter 51:16. Who asked you to be next to me? Xiao Sudong shrugged. Their team was close to each other, so no matter what Lin Yi said, he could hear it clearly. Lin Yi was speechless for a while. Please stay away from me. It's annoying. But I'm not annoyed. Xiao Sudong twisted his body proudly. He looked like he couldn't wait to dance to express his joy. Do you want to die? Seeing this, Ao Lingxiao walked to Lin Yi's side and stood in front of her. His eyes were cold and sharp. Ao Lingxiao, aren't you too arrogant? Xiao Sudong looked surprised. Do you think you are so great just because you have the D family's thigh? In the next second, Di Xiaofeng also stood up. What did you say? Xiao Sudong was slightly taken aback. I'm too lazy to care about you. As soon as his voice fell, he sat down directly and began to cultivate. What a joke. He was just saying it. Given the current situation, how would he dare to make a fuss with the D clan? Needless to say, he would be the one who would suffer at that time. Looking at Xiao Sudong's appearance, Lin Yi couldn't help but chuckle and said, Second cousin's progress is very fast. According to his speed, I'm afraid it won't take long to reach the entrance of the ruin. Originally, Di Beichen had already walked halfway. After these days of meditation, he was getting closer and closer to the end of the bridge. That's right. Beichen's understanding of the power of darkness is truly eye-opening. Di Xiaofeng looked relaxed for a while. When he first learned that Beichen had the dark attribute, he was worried for a while. The most important thing was not that the dark attribute would be discriminated against by others, but because there was no inheritance of the dark attribute. It was extremely difficult to have a good development in this area. It was just that he didn't expect Beichen to hide it so deeply that they didn't need to worry about him at all. With his previous ability, the number of people who wanted to go against Beichen in the future would be greatly reduced. Uncle and aunt will be very happy when they know. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He said that the dark attribute cultivator has no future. Second cousin is amazing. Xiaofeng, it's been so many days. Why don't the cultivators from the other clans want to leave? Lin Taxing frowned slightly. Logically speaking, at this time, others should be thinking of going to other places in the Immortal Cloud secret realm to look for opportunities. Di Xiaofeng glanced at the crowd and said, Aren't they waiting for the door to open to see if they have a chance to enter? Whether or not he could find other opportunities in other places was uncertain. However, if he continued to stay here, he might be able to gain quite a bit. In my opinion, I'm afraid it's a little difficult. Lin Taxing stretched his back. He was really curious about the two transformed bridges. I won't give up until all hope is gone. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Look, Di Beichen is moving again. Is he going to walk directly to the other side? His understanding of dark power is too amazing. Even Xiao Shou is not as good as him. How did he do it? Hearing these exclamations, Di Xiaofeng and others couldn't help but withdraw from the cultivation state. As soon as they looked up, they found that Di Beichen was walking forward again. Chapter 51:17. Jun Lingxuan and the others stared at this scene in a daze, their eyes filled with shock. Di Beichen's understanding of the darkness attribute is too strong. All these years, I've never heard of anyone with such a high understanding of the power of darkness. Jun Lingxuan frowned. Di Beichen's talent made him feel a strong sense of crisis. He simply couldn't understand. The power of darkness had long been on the decline, and was an insignificant existence in the eyes of others. However, why did the power of darkness fall into Di Beichen's hands and erupt with such terrifying power? Di Beichen will definitely be terrifying in the future. Nangong Yuqing's face was gloomy. When he first met Di Beichen, he didn't put him in his eyes at all. However, even he felt that the current Di Beichen was difficult to deal with. As long as this guy didn't fall, his future achievements would definitely be amazing. The two of them looked at each other. If Bewitching obtained this inheritance, it would really be. Just as everyone was guessing whether Bewitching would be able to pass through, Bewitching gave them the answer with his actions. Bewitching walked forward without the slightest intention of stopping, and smoothly walked to the other side of the bridge. Then, the sacred steel of darkness disappeared. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Di Xiaofeng and the others were pleasantly surprised. Bewitching actually passed through. Great. Second cousin is simply a genius. The cultivators from the Di family and Lin family couldn't help but rejoice. Although they didn't know how difficult it was to cross the bridge, Xiao Shou, the next holy maiden of the light, still couldn't cross it. But Bewitching had already done so. This showed the difference in comprehension ability. After Xiao Shou saw Bewitching cross the bridge of darkness, a trace of astonishment appeared in her eyes. She couldn't believe that Bewitching's comprehension speed could be so fast. She knew very well that if she wanted to pass, she had to have a strong understanding of the attribute power. Even with her accumulation over the years, she still found it very difficult to pass. How did Bewitching do it? After crossing the bridge, Bewitching wasn't in a hurry. First, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang on the bridge with a smile on his lips. Then, he sat down on the other side of the bridge of light. Then, everyone saw that Bewitching began to comprehend the sacred steel of light. What's going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. This Bewitching shouldn't be crazy, right? He has the dark attribute. Why is he trying to comprehend the sacred steel of light? Everyone couldn't help but ask. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at each other. Bewitching's actions really confused them. In my opinion, Bewitching should be waiting for Hongzhuang. Anyway, the sacred steel of darkness is gone. It's no big deal to look at the sacred steel of light, Morongjing said thoughtfully. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. Now, it seems that this is the only explanation. After seeing Bewitching's actions, Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled. Only she knew that Bewitching also needed to comprehend the sacred steel of light. However, she didn't have the chance to comprehend the sacred steel of darkness this time. She wasn't worried about this. After all, Bewitching was teaching her. Look, Xiao Shou is moving forward again. Chapter 51:18. She was already close to the holy steel, but now she was even closer. Based on this situation, I'm afraid Xiao Shou will pass in less than 2 days. Lin Qianqian's face darkened. Although she had expected Bailey Hongzhuang to lose to Xiao Shou, she did not expect the difference to be so huge. In her opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang would at least be stronger than the other 3 cultivators. Shangguan Ying and Wen Ziren looked at each other. Both of their eyes were filled with anxiety. Don't worry too much. I think Hongzhuang just hasn't made a move yet. Mo Yunjue said slowly. Xiao Shou stopped 3 steps away from the radiant sacred monument. She could feel the distance between them, and the smile in her eyes could no longer remain the same. In just a short period of time, she felt that her understanding of the power of light was much stronger than before. They were no longer on the same level. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was far behind, she felt even more proud. At this moment, she had finally proven her excellence to everyone. Thinking of this, she could not help but look at Bewitching behind the holy steel. She wanted to know what Bewitching was thinking. However, Bewitching's eyes were fixed on the holy steel, and there was no expression at all. Just as Xiao Shou was secretly thinking, suddenly, a cry of surprise came from behind. Look, Hongzhuang has finally moved. Shangguan Ying looked at the white figure on the bridge excitedly. During this period, all the cultivators had moved forward. Only Bailey Hongzhuang had not moved at all. This made her very anxious. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had finally stood up, how could she not be excited? Di Xiaofeng and the others also had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Although they did not know how far Bailey Hongzhuang could go, there was still a glimmer of hope. I really don't know what the Di family is so happy about. Xiao Shou is about to reach the end, and Bailey Hongzhuang is just starting to move forward. Is this something to be happy about? At least this way, they won't lose so badly. Upon hearing this, The faces of the D family members darkened. Even their initial joy had been diluted by a little. Master, you've been so quiet. I'm afraid everyone is worried to death. A trace of helplessness appeared on Xiao Hei's face. It really admired its master's calmness. In these days, it had noticed the joy on Xiao Sou and the others' faces, as if they thought they were so amazing. It couldn't stand it anymore, but its master was so calm and didn't care at all. It's the same whether it's near or far. Why do you have to run here and there? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She still preferred to concentrate on comprehending. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang finally take a step forward, Xiao Soa did not take it to heart because she was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang could not surpass her. No matter how hard she worked now, it would be futile. However, when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang walking all the way without stopping at all and gradually getting closer to her, Xiao Soa could no longer maintain the smile on her face. She stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, unable to believe that she had walked so far. Not only Xiao Soa, but the cultivators outside were also dumbfounded after seeing this scene. Bailey Hongzhuang really doesn't say much, but when she does, she amazes everyone. Chapter 51:19. Is it possible that Bailey Hongzhuang will surpass Xiao Soa? If this is the case, then it will be explosive. Qiu Baixin looked curious. He thought that there was no hope for this matter before. He didn't expect such a change to happen in the blink of an eye. How could he not be surprised? Do you think second cousin-in-law is really so amazing? Lin Yi widened her eyes and clenched her hands tightly. Her face was full of expectation. This is quite possible. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Hong Zhuang would often do things that would frighten people to death. It was not surprising that she would do something like this. If this is true, then it will be amazing. Haha. In everyone's surprised and expectant eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps never stopped until she surpassed Xiao Soa. The world seemed to be quiet. Shocked gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if everyone had guessed this possibility before, when it really happened, everyone still felt a little incredulous. Oh my God, she really surpassed Xiao Soa? This isn't an illusion, right? This sentence expressed everyone's thoughts. The difference in this change was too big. I suddenly remembered the time when Bailey Hongzhuang was practicing her singing. Everyone nodded. When Bailey Hongzhuang sang, they thought that she was overestimating herself at first, but the situation later made them feel that they were idiots. Now Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was also a slap in everyone's face. They suddenly felt that if this happened again in the future, they could not laugh at Bailey Hongzhuang. Until the very last moment, no one would know the result. How is this possible? The same thought emerged in the minds of Xiao Sudong, Jun Lingxuan and others. Logically speaking, this should be impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang directly passed by Xiao Seiwu's side, and under her stiff gaze, she directly walked down the bridge. Master, I think Xiao Soa seems to have collapsed. Xiao Hei couldn't help but say. Bailey Hongzhuang raised the corner of her lips slightly. I tell you, if you want to hit the other party, you have to do this. Don't even give her a chance to cry. Master, I understand. Xiao Hei looked as if he had learned something. Let her be proud of herself first, then she won't even be able to cry. You are teachable. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang walked across the bridge, the light sacred monument disappeared directly. Everyone only saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking at Di Beichen with a smile. The two white figures stood together like immortals. Wife, you are here. A gentle smile bloomed on Di Beichen's peerless face. It was like a spring breeze, sweeping through everyone's hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly, and nodded her head gently. Xiao Soa felt that this warm and harmonious scene was especially unpleasant to the eyes. She immediately stood up and wanted to walk over, but she realized that there was an invisible barrier blocking her way. She couldn't move forward at all. In the next moment, before she could think of a way, a ray of light flashed, and the two elemental bridges disappeared. Xiao Soa and the other three cultivators fell to the ground. No matter how they tried to move forward, they couldn't move forward at all. Chapter 51:20. It seems that only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen can enter these ruins. Only the two of them can enter such a large ruin. I'm afraid that the inheritance must be amazing. The cultivators could not help but feel envious. Usually, even if they saw a ruin, they would rush forward with all their might, because there were too many competitors. However, there were only 2 people in the ruin, and they were husband and wife. How could there be such a good thing? Xiao Sou's expression was extremely ugly. Intense jealousy and unwillingness surged in her heart. She could not accept that such an inheritance would belong to Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a pure inheritance was a priceless treasure. So take it easy. Jun Lingxuan patted Xiao Sou on the shoulder. Although he was comforting her, his feelings were extremely complicated. Previously, he had valued Xiao Sou because of her identity as the Sacred Lady of Light. If the identity of the Sacred Lady of Light was taken away by Bailey Hongzhuang, then Xiao Sou would really have no place to compare with her. Xiao Sou listened to Jun Lingxuan's comforting words, and suddenly felt a warmth in her heart. Her mood calmed down a little. Big sister, don't be sad. Even if they enter, they may not necessarily be able to obtain the inheritance. Look, isn't the door of the ruin still locked? Xiao Sudong's voice rang out. Hearing this, the crowd was stunned for a moment before looking at the ruin. Sure enough, the door of the ruin was still locked, and there was no sign that it would open on its own. Xiao Sou's eyes suddenly lit up, and hope rekindled in her eyes. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang can't enter, then everything will be fine. This ruin is really strange. It's still locked at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching can't possibly have the key. Just as everyone was shaking their heads, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly took out a stone. Why did Hongzhuang take out a stone? Is she going to break the door? Lin Qianqian could not help but blurt out. However, after saying this, she found it a little funny. Someone had already tried before, and it was impossible to open. In my opinion, this ruin probably belongs to someone. The Sacred Light Monument and the Sacred Darkness Monument from before are the rewards for cultivators who are fated to cultivate. Bewitching's eyes flashed with a wise light. This kind of exclusive inheritance has actually appeared before. For example, a senior from a certain family wants to leave it to his family's younger generation. As soon as he said this, the crowd nodded their heads. However, just as they were feeling pity for Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, a light ray of light. Immediately after that, they had seen the appearance of the Sacred Lady of the Sacred Lady of Light. And Bewitching's Hongzhuang Beichen. Of the Lin Qianqian. The Bailey Hongzhuang actually has a key. Chu Yingming was stunned. Bailey Hongzhuang actually has the key. Not only him, but Di Xiaofeng and others also looked at each other. They didn't know that Bailey Hongzhuang had the key. When did Hongzhuang get the key? Lin Taxing looked puzzled. We looked for it for a long time before, but I didn't see Hongzhuang looking for it at all. I remember that Hongzhuang said before that her stone had a reaction. Is it that stone just now? It seems to be. Lin Yi and others suddenly reacted and couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 51-21. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, there were still a lot of cultivators who were unwilling to give up. However, after struggling for a long time without any hope of entering, they could only give up helplessly. Soon a lot of cultivators chose to leave. There was no point in continuing to stay here. They might as well leave and look for other opportunities. Morong Jing looked at Di Xiaofeng and asked, Xiaofeng, are you guys staying here or leaving? Di Xiaofeng glanced at his family's disciples before smiling and saying, we'll stay here and wait for Hongzhuang and the rest to come out. Since that's the case, we'll stay here as well, Morong Jing said with a smile. Hearing that, Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. We still have to stay in the Immortal Cloud secret realm for a few more months. Isn't it too much of a pity for you guys to stay here? What's there to pity? Morong Jing did not mind. Anyway, this place is rich in origin energy. Cultivating here is much faster than cultivating outside. Di Xiaofeng looked at Morong Jing deeply. He understood that Morong Jing made such a choice for their safety. At this moment, there would naturally not be any cultivators attacking them. However, as the group left, no one knew if Jun Lingxuan and the rest would choose to join hands to deal with them. Without Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, their combat power had decreased by a lot. Once they were attacked by a group, he did not have the confidence to win. At this moment Chen Feng's voice sounded. I didn't expect young Master Morong to also decide to stay here. Morong Jing looked at Chen Feng in astonishment. Could it be that you guys are also planning to stay here? Chen Feng nodded slightly. This place is quite good. The next moment, Morong Jing and Chen Feng looked at each other, and a smile of understanding appeared on their faces. Obviously their thoughts were the same. After seeing Morong Jing and Chen Feng's decision, Jun Lingxuan's expression became unsightly. He did not expect these two guys to have calculated everything. As a result, they indeed had no chance to make a move. The Great Devil sect and Morong family were not weak. If these four families joined hands, even if they joined hands, they might not be able to win. While thinking, Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but look at Chu Yingming. Ever since he was seriously injured, Chu Yingming's situation has been a bit strange. After the previous battle, almost all of them had broken through. Only Chu Yingming still hadn't made any progress. Chu Yingming, you still haven't broken through? Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but ask. I heard you say that you've touched the bottleneck of a breakthrough. Chu Yingming frowned. I don't know what's going on either. I can clearly feel a bottleneck, but no matter how hard I try, I can't break through. This kind of situation would never have happened to him in the past, because his cultivation talent was extremely strong, far surpassing that of ordinary cultivators. Now that everyone had broken through, but he hadn't, one could imagine how depressed he was. Young master, could it be that you took a lot of healing medicine when you were injured and that caused side effects? A cultivator from the Chu clan couldn't help but ask. If one consumed too many pills, it was indeed possible for pill toxins to appear and affect the cultivator's breakthrough. I don't think so. Chu Yingming's voice was filled with hesitation. He himself didn't know what was going on. Chapter 51-22. When he was cultivating on weekdays, he felt that everything was going smoothly. But now when he was cultivating, he always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Could it be that the previous injury was too serious and hurt the foundation? Jun Lingxuan was surprised for a while. Apart from this situation, he really couldn't think of any other situation that would affect a cultivator's breakthrough. As soon as these words came out, Chu Yingming's face suddenly became extremely ugly. As everyone knew, it was a trivial matter for a cultivator to be injured. Almost every cultivator had suffered extremely serious injuries. As long as they recovered, there would be no impact. However, once the foundation was hurt, it was really over. It was almost impossible to break through again. As long as the cultivation did not decline because of this, it was already fortunate. He absolutely could not accept such a situation. Seeing Chu Yingming's face suddenly changed, everyone understood that Jun Lingxuan might be right. Everyone saw how serious Chu Yingming's injury was before. If the foundation was hurt, then they would no longer have to be afraid of Chu Yingming in the future. It wouldn't be long before the all-powerful Chu Yingming would disappear from everyone's sight. With second cousin-in-law's medical skills, she can definitely cure you, and there won't be any problems. However, some people don't believe it. You deserve to be in this situation now. Lin Yi's eyes showed a smug look. When Chu Yingming was injured, she felt very uncomfortable looking at their attitude. Now that she discovered such a situation, she was naturally happy to see it. With Lin Yi's words, Chu Yingming's face suddenly became even more ugly. Yes, Hong Zhuang's medical skills have always been superb. Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but say. I found a lot of doctors at the beginning, and they all said that Xier's illness was incurable, but Hong Zhuang cured her. That's right. Hong Zhuang's medical skills are even admired by Dr. Wu. Lin Qianqian said with a smile. With each sentence, Chu Yingming's face darkened. In the end, it was as black as the bottom of a pot. Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Sou, and Nangong Yuqing's complexions changed quietly. They didn't think much of it before, but after Lin Yi and others mentioned it, this problem seemed to involve them. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was originally planning to save Chu Yingming, but was stopped by them. Not only that, they also took out healing medicines from their families and gave them to Chu Yingming. If Chu Yingming's foundation was truly damaged because of this, then it would definitely be related to them. I think I'd better go look for opportunities elsewhere. I'll take my leave first. Nangong Yuqing scratched his head, looked around and quickly left. Let's leave as well. Jun Lingshuan took Xiao Sou and left quickly. If he continued to stay, he was afraid of suffering Chu Yingming's anger. Chu Yingming looked at Jun Lingshuan and others who left quickly. His face was livid. Although his heart was full of anger, he didn't vent it in the end. Before figuring out everything, it was useless to lose his temper. The most important thing was that he couldn't admit it. Once he admitted it, then everyone would know his current situation. Di Xiaofeng and others looked at each other and didn't say anything. Facing such a Chu Yingming, they felt a little miserable. Chapter 51-23. Let's go. Chu Yingming waved his hand and left with his family's disciples. After everyone left, only the cultivators from the 5 great families were left outside the ruins. Di Xiaofeng smiled as he looked at Bailey Yunyan and asked, Yunyan, are you guys not going to look for more opportunities? Bailey Yunyan shook her head. With our strength, it's very dangerous to stay in the Immortal Cloud secret domain. I've already obtained an opportunity before, so I'm not greedy. Instead of going out and facing danger at any time, it's better to stay here and cultivate. Actually, the origin energy here is so dense, and there's even a faint trace of the laws of heaven and earth. Cultivating here is very beneficial for us. A faint smile appeared on Chen Feng's handsome face. Perhaps his choice to stay here was indeed somewhat of a waste of opportunity. However, Bewitching was his friend, and had helped him so much before. He had to take good care of his family's disciples. It was not his style to leave just like that. Chen Feng Morong, I'm really sorry for wasting your time. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with guilt. He understood their good intentions, but he owed them too much. This is our own choice. You don't have to take it to heart. If you treat us as friends, then there's no need to be so courteous. Chen Feng smiled faintly. After this interaction, he increasingly felt that Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen, these 2 brothers, were people worth befriending. That's right. Morong Jing agreed. If you treat us as friends, then there's no need to be so courteous. Seeing this, the smile in Di Xiaofeng's eyes deepened. He nodded and said, Since that's the case, then I won't say anything. In any case, I'll remember this friendship in my heart. As everyone left, everyone became more relaxed. The great devil sex cultivators did not have any objections to Chen Feng's decision. If it wasn't for the Di family, they would have lost their lives long ago. Since their eldest senior brother had made such a decision, they would naturally agree. After some laughter, everyone calmed down and started cultivating. Although they didn't have any other opportunities, if they could improve their cultivation, then this trip would not be in vain. However, just as they were cultivating peacefully, an incomparably profound aura suddenly spread over. Noticing this aura, everyone couldn't help but open their eyes. With this glance, dense excitement and pleasant surprise appeared on everyone's faces. In his line of sight, a stone tablet was suspended in midair in front of the ruins. A chaotic yet powerful aura emanated from the stone tablet, revealing a vast and mysterious aura. As soon as they saw the stone tablet, everyone recognized it. This is the Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet. Chen Feng could not help but stand up and stare blankly at the stone stele in front of him that was emitting primal chaos radiance, an expression of disbelief on his face. The tablet actually appeared. Emperor Xiaofeng's face was filled with joy. Our luck is too good. Lin Taking nodded repeatedly. This is a great lucky chance. I heard that it has been many years since the last time the Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet appeared. I never thought that I would have the chance to see it again. Everyone couldn't help but move forward, wanting to get closer to the Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet. However, they discovered that the restriction was still there, preventing them from moving forward. Chapter 51-24. This is too unbelievable. Not only does this ruin have the Light Saint Tablet and Darkness Saint Tablet, it even has the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet. Morong Jing was overjoyed, but more than that he was shocked. For such a treasure to appear, It was an incomparably shocking opportunity. However, they had already seen 3 of them here. It was obvious how amazing the owner of this ruin was. Looks like Beichen's group has really obtained a huge opportunity this time. Di Xiaofeng's bright eyes were filled with joy and admiration. His lips curled up. Previously, Beichen's group was already extremely powerful. Now that they had obtained such a huge opportunity, their future achievements were needless to say. Not to mention them, even for us, this is an opportunity that we can't ask for normally. Morong Jing was full of smiles. He looked at Chen Feng and said, "Fortunately we didn't leave. Otherwise we would have missed it." The Primal Chaos Saint Tablet contained the power of primal chaos. At the beginning of the world, everything was primal chaos. Later on, it was divided into 9 attributes. However, primal chaos was still the strongest power. The Saint Tablet of Attributes could only be comprehended by cultivators with a specific attribute. However, the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet could be comprehended by anyone. Not only that, because it was the power of origin, although the increase in one's attributes couldn't be compared to the Saint Tablet of Attributes, it could still allow one to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. It was said that the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet had disappeared long ago. All these years, no matter how the various major powers searched, they still couldn't find it. Almost everyone believed that they would never be able to see the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet again. However, it had appeared in front of them just like that. Chen Feng nodded. "That's right. It's too much of a pity to miss this opportunity." The cultivators of the Great Devil sect cheered. Such an opportunity was much more precious than going to other places to look for opportunities. Looking for cultivation resources was only to increase one's strength in other aspects. Comprehending the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet was to increase one's understanding of cultivation. Such an opportunity was much more precious than countless cultivation resources. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Perhaps this is what they mean by kindness begets kindness. After their joy, everyone hurriedly focused on comprehending. No one knew when the Primal Chaos Saint Tablet would disappear. Even looking at it for a while would be of great help to them. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen entered the ruins, they discovered that the interior of the ruins was filled with rich light energy. Although there was also the power of darkness, it was undoubtedly much weaker than the power of light. The 2 of them looked at each other and understood in their hearts that this should be the remains of their mistress. Bailey Hongzhuang found the style of the ruins somewhat familiar. Just like the palace in the Chaos Ring, many of the decorations were similar. However, as soon as they entered the ruins, they entered a huge main hall. The entire main hall was incomparably bright, and there was a pure and holy aura everywhere. Standing there and bathing in the pure and flawless light energy, Lin Li's thoughts seemed to have become transparent. Even things that he couldn't understand in the past seemed to be instantly understood. "Wow, I sense a familiar aura." Xiao Hei's eyes shone with excitement as it looked around. An inexplicable sense of familiarity emerged from the depths of its soul. Xiaobai nodded. "It is indeed familiar. This is the aura of the previous owner." Chapter 51-25. In the next moment, the white dragon's figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. When she saw the white dragon's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes flashed with astonishment. "Linger, you can come out now?" Previously, due to the restrictive spell, the white dragon had been unable to come out. She never thought that it would suddenly come out now. The white dragon nodded. "After entering the ruins, the restrictive spell has disappeared. I can come out now." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "It's probably because the chaos ring used to belong to the owner of the ruins. There's only one main hall here. I can't see anything else. What should we do next?" Bailey Hongzhuang scanned her surroundings. She had hoped to meet the remnant consciousness of the original owner, because they were simply too connected by fate. However, from the moment they had entered the main hall, it seemed that they could not find any other breakthrough. Di Beichen looked around as well. The ruins they had encountered in the past had not been like this. Back when they had entered their master's ruins in the lower realm, they had experienced endless dangers in the beginning, before they had finally obtained the inheritance. However, the ruins before them had an unprecedented sense of peace. Even the bridge of attributes had not shown any signs of danger. Even though everything before them was unclear, they could sense that the owner of the ruins was very calm. Let's look around. Bewitching's voice was warm and mellow. He could not find any breakthrough in the situation before them either. However, just as the two of them were about to look around, a melodious voice suddenly rang out in the main hall. I never thought that we would be so fated. The soft and gentle voice was like a spring breeze, stirring up ripples in one's heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression turned solemn. Even though she could not see the other party, she still bowed respectfully. Senior, the Chaos Ring has fallen into your hands. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Ever since they had entered the ruins, the Chaos Ring had shown an unprecedented reaction. It was as if it was extremely familiar with the owner of the ruins. Thinking back, after I had left the Chaos Ring behind, I thought that I would never have the chance to see it again. I never thought that someone would bring the Chaos Ring here. This is truly fate. Her gentle voice was filled with sorrow, as if she was recalling everything that had happened many years ago. Her voice was filled with sorrow and sadness. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took off the Chaos Ring and presented it with both hands. Senior, this is your Chaos Ring. I'm returning it to you. Even though the Chaos Ring had given her a lot of help, and she had long gotten used to its existence, Bailey Hongzhuang still had no intention of taking it for herself in front of its true owner. Because of this ring, she came to 1,000 years in the future. She once had resentment, but after meeting Bewitching, her resentment completely dissipated. Even though there were regrets in her heart that were difficult to fill, she was still grateful to the Chaos Ring. Because of it, he was able to obtain everything he had today. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, the master of the ruins chuckled. Since it has recognized you as its master, it's yours. Everything in the world was fate. You were able to obtain the Chaos Ring. And now, you were able to come here. Everything was fated. What's more, I've already fallen. What's the point of finding it? I only hope that you can treat them well. Chapter 51-26. But why is Bai Long with you? In the next moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing the woman in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly showed a trace of surprise. The woman was wearing an elegant white dress, and her hair was as smooth as silk. Her soft facial features were indescribably exquisite, and her entire body exuded a holy light unique to the power of light. At a glance, she looked like a goddess, but also like an immortal. Bailey Hongzhuang had never seen such a gentle woman. Even if it was just a glance, the other party's temperament was deeply imprinted in her heart. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang keenly captured the slight fluctuation in the woman's voice when she mentioned Bai Long Sr. This junior is He Xinjuan's disciple. Bewitching cupped his fists and said, Bai Long was rescued by my wife from my master's ruins. As Bewitching's voice fell, Bai Yunjiao's face suddenly froze. She looked at Bewitching in disbelief, her clear eyes rippling. You said, you are He Xinjuan's disciple? That's me. Bewitching nodded and said respectfully, Greetings, master's wife. Ah. Bai Yunjiao couldn't help but cover her mouth. Her eyes gradually filled with tears. You are He Xinjuan's disciple. How is he now? Master has already passed away. His greatest regret was that he couldn't be with master's wife. Bai Yunjiao's eyes suddenly turned red and tears fell from the corners of her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly. Obviously, this result was a big blow to her. It's all my fault. Her light voice was like a spring, pleasant to the ear but full of sadness. Master's wife. Master said that meeting you was his greatest fortune in life. Even if the result didn't go as he wished, he never regretted it. His greatest regret was that he didn't have the ability to change all this and made you suffer. Bewitching stared at Bai Yunjiao. This was the message that his master had asked him to convey. Back then, he didn't understand why his master thought that he would be able to meet his master's wife one day. It wasn't until he understood the relationship between Xiao Bai and his master's wife that he finally understood. As it turned out, everything had long been predestined. Even though Bai Yunjiao had been trying to calm herself down, She could no longer control herself after hearing those words. She almost burst into tears in an instant. Tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls, but there was still a trace of indescribable joy on her face. Because He Shinjuan's words gave her the greatest comfort. Even if they had already fallen, even if it was impossible for them to be together again, at least they had never regretted it. At least He Shinjuan's love for her was the same as her love for He Shinjun. It had never changed. Seeing Bai Yunjiao like this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes reddened. Even though she didn't know exactly what had happened back then, she could roughly guess from this situation. This kind of feeling was truly unchanging even in death. Even if they had fallen because of their union, they had never regretted it. Bewitching remained silent. His deep eyes revealed some ripples. When he first heard his master talk about all this, he already knew how difficult it had been for the two of them to walk this path. Chapter 51:27. Even if they couldn't be together forever, even if it was only for a short period of time, it was still a kind of happiness. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other. In comparison, they were happy. Although they had encountered all kinds of troubles along the way, it was not worth mentioning compared to He Shinjun. After a while, Bai Yunjiao calmed down from her emotions. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and He Shinjun with some embarrassment. "I've let you see a joke." The two shook their heads. No matter who it was, they would not be able to control their emotions. They wanted to comfort Bai Yunjiao, but they felt that their words were pale and powerless. "Thank you for telling me what he said. At least I can smile in peace." Bai Yunjiao looked at Bewitching gratefully. Her gentle face became even more gentle. "Master's wife, this is what I should do." Bewitching looked serious. "This is also Master's last wish." Bai Yunjiao smiled. "Shinjun has good taste." In the next moment, her eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. She asked with some surprise, "You two are husband and wife?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Yes. It seems that our fate is deeper than I thought." Bai Yunjiao chuckled and said, "So, you two are also of the light and darkness attributes? Do you know that such a union will face a lot of pressure? We are already mentally prepared. No matter what the outside world thinks, we will not be separated." Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes were shining with a determined light. She did not know what Bai Yunjiao and He Shinjun had experienced, but she was also determined to be together with Bewitching. Although Bewitching did not speak, the determination in his eyes said everything. Bai Yunjiao's eyes swept over the two. The smile on her lips gradually deepened. Looking at the two in front of her, she seemed to see herself and He Shinjun. Yes, their hearts were so determined to be together, no matter how rough the road ahead was. "I also believe that you can live well." Bai Yunjiao looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "From now on, you are my disciple." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Did she pass just like that? Don't they need to take any tests? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Bai Yunjiao guessed what she was thinking, and the smile on her lips became brighter. "I originally wanted to test you, but there's no need for that now. I believe in Shinjun's judgment, and I also believe in your judgment." Bai Yunjiao's gaze landed on Bewitching and the three beasties when she said "you guys." Everyone immediately understood, and a joyful smile appeared on their faces. "Master Bai, my current master is also very powerful. You definitely didn't choose the wrong person," Xiao He said with a smile. Seeing this, Bai Yunjiao softly chuckled. "I didn't think that you'd all grown so big. Since you've met a master you like, I can rest assured. He Guangling should be your contracted beast now, right?" Bai Yunjiao looked at Xiao Bai sitting on Bewitching's shoulder, and immediately understood. Chapter 51:28. "Master, can you tell me about Xiao He and Xiao Bai's origins?" After being recognized as a disciple by Bai Yunjiao, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally asked for her master's attention. "Xiao He and Xiao Bai?" Bai Yunjiao raised her eyebrows and a smile appeared in her eyes. "Very simple names. It seems that you don't know what kind of demonic beasts the black light spirit and the white light spirit are, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Indeed, after so long, other than hearing their real names from the white dragon, She did not receive any information about their species. Not only that, according to Xiao He and Xiao Bai's memories, they were created by He Shenjun and by Yunjiao. Actually, these demonic beasts did not exist in this world. They were created by me and Shenjun by chance. We added the light and dark attributes to their bodies, which is why they were created. Following Bai Yunjiao's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood the cause and effect. Originally, Bai Yunjiao was the holy maiden of the light faction and had a very high status. However, she met He Shenjun by chance, and the two fell in love. As the holy maiden of the light faction, she naturally knew that she could not be together with He Shenjun. Because of the difference in attributes, her clan would never allow her to be together with He Shenjun. However, He Shenjun had saved the damsel in distress time and time again, so she could not help but fall in love with him. The Divine Cloud Realm was a small world created by Bai Yunjiao. At that time, she and He Shenjun lived together in this small world. During this process, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were created. These were the lives they gave birth to together. Unexpectedly, the good times did not last long. In the end, they were discovered. In the end, the two decided to break through their shackles and leave everything behind. In the process of escaping, they encountered danger, and Bai Yunjiao used the Chaos Ring to avoid the danger. As a divine weapon, the Chaos Ring's defensive capabilities were naturally very strong and successfully protected them. However, although they successfully avoided the danger, they were also left behind. After that, the two of them lived together. However, in the end, Bai Yunjiao was captured and brought back. She died of depression. After hearing all this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh faintly. This situation was really too sad. The two of them had already decided to abandon everything. But in the end, there was still someone who was unwilling to let them go. It really made them feel helpless. Originally, she couldn't understand why the primal chaos ring had fallen into her hands 1,000 years ago. She had also transmigrated 1,000 years into the future, while Bai Yunjiao and He Shenjun had fallen a few hundred years ago. The timeline simply didn't match. Now he finally understood everything. He had to admit that everything was really coincidental. Master, you're already so strong, yet you were still separated. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Although she didn't know Bai Yunjiao's true strength, she could guess that it wasn't something they could compare with. However, it was precisely these two peerless powerhouses that ended up like this. It truly made one sigh. Hearing this, Bai Yunjiao's expression became complicated. Her clear and bright eyes flashed with hesitation, but in the end it disappeared. Chapter 51-29. The hesitation on Bai Yunjiao's face did not escape the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching. The two of them immediately realized that things were not as simple as Bai Yunjiao had described them to be. There must be more to this, but Bai Yunjiao was unwilling to speak of it. Although they did not know the reason, the two of them did not ask. They believed that Bai Yunjiao must have her reasons for not speaking of it. In fact, even if Bai Yunjiao did not reveal such an expression, they could still guess that there was a problem. Otherwise, for such peerless cultivators, it would not be easy for them to be together in public. In that case, they should not have been discovered by hiding their identities. However, under such circumstances, both of them had still fallen. At least, based on their current understanding of the situation, things had not reached such a stage. Xiao Soa would definitely be chosen as the next saint of the Light Maiden. However, when she found out about Bewitching's attributes, she did not immediately reject the marriage. On the contrary, if Bewitching had not rejected the marriage, Xiao Soa would have chosen to accept it. When Bai Yunjiao noticed their expressions, she sighed inwardly. These two were really smart children. However, she did not want to reveal the complexity of the situation. Doing so would only increase the pressure on the two of them. Rather than endure the pressure, it would be better to be together peacefully and happily. This was the goal that she and He Shenjun had always pursued. Give me the chaos ring. Bai Yunjiao smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang and said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately took off the chaos ring and handed it over. After receiving the chaos ring, Bai Yunjiao casually wiped it with her hand before returning it to Bailey Hongzhuang. You are now its true master. There should be no more restrictions on it. Following Bai Yunjiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt that the connection between her and the Chaos Ring had become even closer. In the past, after the Chaos Ring had recognized her as its master, she had never noticed that there were other restrictions in the Chaos Ring. Now that Bai Yunjiao had removed the restriction, she discovered the changes in the Chaos Ring. This feeling was as if the relationship between the two had become even closer. In the past, no matter what happened in the Chaos Ring, she had to explore it on her own. But now whatever she wanted to know, she could know immediately. After understanding this point, she couldn't help but be even more shocked. Just this point alone was enough to prove Bai Yunjiao's skill. This kind of method was obviously not something that the cultivators she had come into contact with could possess. However, after removing the restriction, Bai Yunjiao's eyes quietly revealed a trace of astonishment. You've already opened the world in the Chaos Ring. Master, are you talking about the world of experience? The first thing that came to Bailey Hongzhuang's mind was the forest world. This was the only world in the primordial Chaos Ring. World of experience? Bai Yunjiao was stunned for a moment before she nodded. That's right. That's right. I've already opened it for a while. Hearing this, Bai Yunjiao looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching and sighed. I don't know whether this is good or bad for you, but since you've already opened it, it means that it's fated to be with you. Then what's wrong with the world? Chapter 5130. No problem. Bai Yunjiao's expression became calm. Not every cultivator who obtains the Chaos Ring can open that world. However, since you can open it, it proves that you have the ability and talent to come in contact with everything. Bai Yunjiao paused for a moment before continuing. My true inheritance is not here. If you have the chance, you will come in contact with it. When that time comes, I will pass my true inheritance to you. In the next second, Bai Yunjiao looked at Bewitching. The same goes for you. Xinjun's true inheritance is also in another place. If fate wills it, you will find it. Following Bai Yunjiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching could not help but look at each other. This situation was beyond their expectations. They had thought that this was their master's inheritance. They did not expect that it was not the true inheritance. Even if it was not the true inheritance, they had seen the sacred attribute tablet here. If they found the true inheritance, how shocking would the rewards be? Looking at the two confused people, the corner of Bai Yunjiao's lips curled up. When the time comes, you will know. In this ruin, there are 3 sacred tablets. You have seen 2 of them. The third one is the Chaos Sacred Tablet. This is the inheritance that I am giving to you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. She did not expect her master to give these 3 sacred tablets to her. Although she had comprehended for a long time on the bridge, and crossed the bridge of attributes, she knew very well that there was still a long way to go before she could comprehend the light sacred tablet. Other than that, I only have 2 attribute pools here. The water in the pools can change your affinity with the attributes. It will be very beneficial for you. Bai Yunjiao waved her hand and Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching found that 2 pools had appeared in the spacious hall. One of the pools was filled with the power of light. It was emitting white mist that constantly drifted outwards. It was like a fairyland. The other pool was filled with the power of darkness. It was dark and mysterious. The 2 completely different pools appeared at the same time. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching immediately sensed how powerful they were. You guys can go in. Bai Yunjiao smiled faintly. I'll remove the seal on White Dragon's memories first. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Yunjiao glanced at Bai Yunjiao and immediately walked into the pool without hesitation. As soon as she stepped in, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a rich power coming from the pool. That pure and concentrated power shocked her. Previously, when she was outside the ruins, she felt that the light energy emitted by the ruins was extremely shocking. However, compared to the power of light that he felt now, there was still a huge difference. She was certain that this pool of water was a first-rate treasure. It was a priceless treasure to every light attribute cultivator. Staying in this pool of water, Bailey Hongzhuang could feel that her cultivation was progressing rapidly. and her comprehension of the light attribute was also increasing. Ever since she transmigrated, she had seen many relics. Every time they went in, they would fight for it and face danger at any time. Only this time, everything was so peaceful. Bai Yunjiao gave her the feeling that she was an elder. Her words and advice were all for the sake of her improvement. Chapter 5131. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were focused on cultivating in the pool, Bai Long's memories were finally unsealed. Compared to Xiao He and Xiao Bai, who had lost contact with Bai Yunjiao not long after being created, her feelings for Bai Yunjiao were undoubtedly deeper. Yunjiao, in the end, you still. Bai Long's eyes were filled with tears. Looking at Bai Yunjiao, who was only a remnant of her will, he couldn't control his emotions. Don't be sad for me. This is actually a form of relief for me. Without Xinjun, I'm just a walking corpse. I still have to face those people who annoy me. Although I've already disappeared from this world, I feel happier than being alive. Bai Yunjiao's expression was gentle as she looked at Bai Long. I was just worried that you would be the only one left. It's a good thing that Hongzhuang and Di Beichen are doing well, and you've already recognized Hongzhuang as your master. I believe that with them, you'll have a good life. All these years, I've never understood who I was, and why I was in Xinjun's ruins. Now I finally understand, but when I think about how you're all gone, I feel pain. Don't think about it. You were injured so badly because of me. Although part of your memories were sealed, it was also because you were injured too badly. It's a good thing that after these years of cultivation, you finally recovered. I thank you for everything you did for me. Actually, you were never a contract beast. You only followed me to repay my kindness. Now that you've recognized your true master, it's time for you to start a new life. As for me, I have no regrets. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and immersed herself in cultivation. The demon summoning scripture was fully activated, and the heaven-defying effects of this technique were immediately displayed. The rich energy in the pool was constantly being absorbed into her body, increasing her strength. Di Beichen's movements weren't any smaller than Bailey Hongzhuang's. The power of the destiny physique was completely displayed. The dark energy entered his body through his pores and quickly circulated. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were peacefully cultivating, Di Xiaofeng and the others were also concentrating on comprehending the primal chaos sacred tablet. In the beginning, they were worried that the tablet would disappear at any time, so they kept staring at it, not daring to move their eyes away. But when they found that the tablet was floating in the air and didn't show any signs of disappearing, they relaxed. In fact, the tablet itself was a treasure. Even if they kept staring at it, they wouldn't be able to keep staring at it. Moreover, the powerful rules contained within could backfire on one's body, so everyone would take a break after watching for a while. During this process, everyone's comprehension ability was constantly improving. Even if their cultivation, they didn't know that it wasn't just a bit. They knew that their comprehension wasn't just a bit stronger than before. This comprehension and understanding of the laws would show results as they cultivated in the future, and it would be easier for them to break through in the future. This benefit was even more amazing than simply increasing one's cultivation base. We've been outside for a long time, haven't we? On this day, Ao Lingxiao exited his state of comprehension. Time always passed very quickly while he was meditating. Before he knew it, time had already passed. Chapter 5132. Listening to Jun Lingxuan's words, Lin Yi nodded. We seem to have stayed here for a long time. I'm afraid it won't be long before we leave the immortal cloud secret realm. But Beichen and Hongzhuang haven't come out yet. I don't know how long they will stay in the ruins. Mo Yunjia frowned. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Yi entered the ruins, he had already guessed that they wouldn't be able to come out for a while. However, several months had passed in the blink of an eye. They could only stay in the immortal cloud secret realm for a total of 1 year. Once they missed it, the next time they could leave would be 10 years later. Yet they have been in there for so long. What if they don't come out in the stipulated time? A trace of worry appeared on Lin Taxing's face. Obviously, they couldn't stay here for 10 years. Most importantly, according to the news, there had never been a cultivator who could stay here for 10 years and leave alive. They should be out soon. Di Xiaofeng pondered and said. Beichen and Lin Yi should know what to do. If possible, I hope to stay here and comprehend the Primal Chaos Tablet. Morong Jing sighed. Even if they studied the Primal Chaos Tablet every day, they had only scratched the surface. It was just a superficial knowledge, but it was already very useful to him. If he had the chance to comprehend the Primal Chaos Tablet, he believed that his strength would be much stronger than before. As Morong Jing's voice fell, everyone felt the same way. If possible, they also hoped to have such an opportunity. However, the Primal Chaos Tablet didn't belong to them. They couldn't stay here forever. Let's wait patiently for the time being. Chen Feng's expression was calm. His deep eyes were filled with determination and certainty. Even if he hadn't known Di Beichen for a long time, he knew that Di Beichen was a strategist. He would definitely remember the time when they left. After cultivating for several months, Bailey Hongzhuang found that the light power in the pool had decreased a lot. During this period of cultivation, her cultivation had also successfully broken through to the nebula realm. However, only she knew in her heart that what had increased the most was not her cultivation, but her strength. After seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had exited her cultivation state, Bai Yunjiao's remnant consciousness appeared once again. However, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed at a glance that Bai Yunjiao's lingering thoughts were much lighter than when they first met. Obviously, it would not be long before it completely dissipated. Master, Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly, her eyes red. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Bai Yunjiao smiled faintly. Silly girl, I'm already a dead person. What's there to be sad about when a remnant of my will is about to disappear? Master, thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang knelt down and bowed deeply to Bai Yunjiao. There were too many unclear connections between her and Bai Yunjiao. If it wasn't for Bai Yunjiao, she wouldn't be where she was now. Perhaps it was because of these inextricable connections. Or perhaps it was because Bai Yunjiao's situation was too similar to hers. Or perhaps it was because even she herself couldn't understand the reason. But she had an unprecedented deep feeling for Bai Yunjiao. This feeling was akin to seeing one's loved one pass away. It was something she couldn't accept. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in such a state, Bai Yunjiao's heart softened as her eyes reddened. Chapter 5133. When Di Beichen exited his cultivation state, he saw this scene and closed his eyes again. At this time, it was better to let Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Yunjiao have a good talk. Master, I have something I want to ask. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. What is it? Master, do you know what is the use of the rainbow elemental energy? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes. She was quite curious about the rainbow elemental energy that was unique to the Lan family. According to her father, it was a unique inheritance of the Lan family. However, it had not appeared for many years until it appeared in her body. However, until now, other than the fact that the rainbow elemental energy was more condensed than normal elemental energy and could last longer under the same consumption, she did not find any other differences. She had asked other people, but did not seem to have a definite answer. Thinking about it, Bai Yunjiao must be more knowledgeable than them and might know something. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Bai Yunjiao was a little surprised. Why are you asking about the rainbow elemental energy? Because I am one myself. Bai Yunjiao was slightly stunned. Then, her eyes were full of astonishment. You actually have the rainbow elemental energy? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and could not help but ask. Master, is there a problem with the rainbow elemental energy? No. Bai Yunjiao shook her head and her face became serious. Actually, I don't know much about the rainbow elemental energy. I have only heard some news about it. The rainbow elemental energy is a special and powerful force. It is said to be an ancient inheritance, and 1 in 10,000. Based on what I know, I am afraid that 1 in a million people has it. In the past, among the cultivators I know, there was one who had the rainbow elemental energy. His ability completely overpowered cultivators of the same level. He was an extremely powerful existence. Unfortunately, I do not know much about it. However, based on my judgment, your rainbow elemental energy should still be in the beginning stages and has not truly awakened. Awakened? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. She had never heard of this before. That's right. Only after awakening will it be the true rainbow elemental energy. However, as for how to awaken it, you will have to find the answer yourself. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang fell silent. According to his father, this was their family's inheritance. However, it was just as Bai Yunjiao had said. Every cultivator in the family who possessed the rainbow primary force would achieve much more than ordinary cultivators. At the same time, Di Beichen slowly walked over. He stopped beside Bailey Hongzhuang and listened to Bai Yunjiao's message. Bai Yunjiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gentle gaze. I can see that both of you are very lucky. I believe that you will have the opportunity to understand it in the future. Luck was an extremely mysterious thing. Every cultivator would have their own luck. Usually experts would have great luck. For this kind of mysterious thing, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't see through it. However, Bai Yunjiao was very certain. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were able to reach this stage at such a young age. Furthermore, they had received their inheritance. Their luck was already far beyond ordinary people. In addition to Bailey Hongzhuang's rainbow elemental energy and Di Beichen's destiny body, they would definitely go far in the future. I will wait for you at my true inheritance. Chapter 5134. Hearing Bai Yunjiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel puzzled. Previously, she thought that her master actually thought that it was better for her not to enter that level. Why did she suddenly change her mind? Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but Di Beichen also noticed the change in Bai Yunjiao's attitude. Previously, Bai Yunjiao only said that if they had the chance to find the inheritance, then they would talk about it. Now, Bai Yunjiao clearly believed that they had the ability to find it. This was a huge change. In this regard, Bai Yunjiao did not explain, and only smiled faintly. In the next second, two shining stones, one black and one white, appeared in Bai Yunjiao's hand. I'll leave this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the white stone in her hand and asked doubtfully, Master, this is? This is the key to my true inheritance, just like the key to this inheritance. When you're close to it, you'll sense it, and it will help you find the inheritance. As soon as this was said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes lit up. If this world was so big, it would not be easy for them to find it. However, with this key, it would at least be much easier to find it than before. Thank you, Master. Outside the ruins, if Di Xiaofeng and the others were not too worried before, they could not help but feel anxious as the one-year deadline approached. What should we do? If we don't come out now, we won't be able to get out. Lin Qianqian anxiously paced back and forth, her hands tightly clasped together. At this time, she could not even calm down to comprehend the chaos sacred tablet. After all, once they missed it, it would be 10 years. Although the lifespan of a cultivator was relatively long, many things would have changed after 10 years. Time is indeed getting tight. Judging from the distance we have to travel, it will take some time. Di Xiaofeng's face darkened. In his impression, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were people who knew their limits. They should not miss this period of time. Do you think anything will happen to them inside? Lin Taxing's expression was complicated. As time passed, all kinds of thoughts emerged in his mind. I don't think so, Murong Jing pondered. From what I can see, the owner of this ruin is very calm, and there was no danger in the previous selection. Not only that, they even gave us the chance to comprehend the primal chaos sacred tablet. Have you ever seen such a situation in the past? Everyone looked at each other. Such a peaceful selection was indeed something they had never encountered before. If it was in the past, which ruin didn't have casualties, that was how the strong were trained. Only this time, it gave them a completely new impression. That's why I don't think they'll encounter any danger inside, Murong Jing said slowly. Bai Yunjiao left. The wisp of remnant consciousness left in the ruins completely dissipated. Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiaohe, Xiaobai, and Bai Long's eyes reddened. They were extremely reluctant to part with Bai Yunjiao. Di Beichen reached out and hugged Bailey Hongzhuang. His voice was gentle and comforting. Wife, don't be sad. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, but the trace of sadness in her heart could not be erased. In the short time they spent together, she only felt that Bai Yunjiao was the real saint of light. She was gentle and magnanimous, and not ordinary people could compare to her. Chapter 5135. After putting the 3 primal chaos tablets into the chaos ring, Bai Long returned to the chaos ring. Although Bai Long's appearance was no longer affected by the restriction, they were about to leave. Bai Long's sudden appearance would undoubtedly shock everyone, so it was better to return to the chaos ring. Bai Long was undoubtedly the saddest about Bai Yunjiao's departure. Previously, they didn't understand why Bai Long's memory was damaged and his strength regressed. Now they finally understood. It turned out that when he was protecting Bai Yunjiao and He Xinjun, he was severely injured. In the end, Bai Yunjiao was still captured and Bai Long followed He Xinjun. At that time, He Xinjun was already severely injured. Therefore, he only left Bai Long in the ruins and later died. At first, Bai Yunjiao saved Bai Long by chance, so Bai Long followed her. The two of them didn't form a contract, but Bai Long was dead set on protecting Bai Yunjiao. However, the power they fought against was too strong. In the end, they couldn't change anything. As Bai Long's memory recovered, he now knew that Bai Yunjiao and He Xinjun had died. One could imagine the pain in his heart. Don't be sad. We still have to move forward. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted Bai Long. She understood how painful it was for the people you cared about the most to leave and never appear again. Even if her comfort was futile, she still hoped that Bai Long would be able to accept it. Linger nodded slightly. Don't worry, I will accept it. When Di Xiaofeng and the others saw that the primal chaos tablets suddenly disappeared, a trace of surprise appeared in their eyes. More than that, there was a trace of anticipation. The primal chaos tablets disappeared. Does this mean that Bewitching and the others are coming out? Ao Lingxiao's eyes lit up. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Di Xiaofeng and the others didn't speak. Their eyes were fixed on the door of the ruins, hoping that it would open. In the next moment, under everyone's fervent gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bewitching's figures finally appeared in everyone's sight. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Bewitching, you're finally out. If you didn't come out, we really didn't know what to do. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with a joyful smile, and his entire body relaxed. Sorry for making everyone wait. Di Bewitching looked at everyone apologetically. When he noticed that the cultivators of the Great Devil sect were also here, a trace of surprise quietly flashed through his deep eyes. It's fine as long as you made it out safely. Lin Taxing smiled faintly. It's getting late. Let's hurry to the exit. As for the rest, let's talk on the way. What do you think? Di Bewitching nodded. Okay. Immediately afterward, the group of people rushed towards the exit marked on the identity card. If they didn't speed up, they wouldn't be able to get out. On the way, Bailey Hongzhuang also learned that the cultivators of the Great Devil sect had decided to stay because they were worried about the safety of Di Xiaofeng and the others. Suddenly, their hearts were touched, and they felt that Chen Feng, this friend of theirs, was really right. The fact that he could take the initiative to think of this at such a time was enough to prove that he was a righteous person. Brother Chen, I will remember this friendship, said Di Bewitching with a smile. Chapter 5136. Chen Feng waved his hand in a carefree manner, but his gaze was incomparably sincere. He was originally an extremely pure person. Since the other party treated him with sincerity, he would naturally treat the other party with sincerity as well. Moreover, he did not have many friends, and Di Bewitching was one of them. Haha. In my opinion, you guys don't need to thank each other. Isn't this how brothers should be? Morong Jinglang said with a smile. Hearing this, Di Bewitching and Chen Feng looked at each other and smiled. No words were needed to express their understanding. On the flying magic tool, a group of cultivators gathered together. At this moment, they were standing on the deck and looking in the direction of the exit. During this process, there were cultivators coming out from the exit and landing on the deck continuously. However, as time passed, the exit started to close gradually. Everyone could not help but look around. The number of cultivators entering and exiting each time was not small. The teams from the D family, Lin family, Morong family, and the Great Devil sect have yet to appear. The exit is about to close. Could it be that they can't make it in time? I remember that they have been guarding outside the ruins. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching have yet to leave the ruins? I remember that the cultivators from the Bailey family seem to be with them as well. If they really can't make it out, that would be interesting. Everyone looked at each other. In their eyes, as long as they missed the opportunity to come out, they could basically treat the other party as if they did not exist. The strength of these four forces was not weak. If all the cultivators were annihilated in the Immortal Cloud secret domain, it would be shocking news. Jun Lingxuan looked at the exit that was getting smaller and smaller, and a trace of joy immediately appeared on his handsome face. This time, when he faced Di Beichen and the others, he was completely defeated. Therefore, he did not think that he could deal with them. However, if Di Beichen and the others were trapped in the Immortal Cloud secret domain and could not come out, then the heavens were really helping him. 10 years later, even if Di Beichen and the others were still alive, the outside world would have undergone tremendous changes. The D family is really interesting. It would be interesting if they don't come out. Nangong Yuqing smirked. He was happy to see such a situation. However, when Chu Yingming heard this news, his brows furrowed. Just when everyone thought that it was impossible for the D family to come out, a group of figures suddenly flew out from the entrance that was about to close. Ta-ta-ta. One figure after another landed on the deck. Who else could it be other than Di Beichen and the others? The smile on Jun Lingxuan's lips suddenly froze. He looked at Di Beichen and the others, who had appeared at the last moment, in astonishment. His gaze couldn't help but become gloomy. What a lucky bastard. Just a little bit more, and the exit would be completely closed. The team leader who came to welcome the disciples back heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this scene. Although every time the Immortal Cloud secret realm was opened, there would always be a situation where the entire team would be wiped out. Although the Immortal Cloud secret domain was destroyed in the Immortal Cloud secret domain, the D family, the Lin family, the Morong family, and the Great Devil sect were not ordinary forces. It would be a pity if all of them were left inside. After seeing this scene, all the cultivators present could not help but sigh. These guys were really lucky. I think that every time these guys appear, they have to create quite a big commotion. Otherwise, they won't stop. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.